the different walls, and there's
Okay.
a rule set just under the TV, related to the TV and when you can use it and so on. So,
Oh, brilliant. And did
Amazing.
they help you? They obviously written it up.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And did you have like a family meeting about it to sort of get the rules clear?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we had a pre-meeting first between us to actually decide, you know,
Yes.
what are we wanting to get on there, because that's the other thing that we've realized is really important, to just kind of align. And then we
Yes.
had the meeting with them, and in our pre-meeting we decided that it would be beneficial for them, you know, the children, even Sienna wrote one as well, and you know, the youngest child, for them to actually write it and articulate it so that they can remember it and understand it. And I
Great.
think that's really helped, like Damien said.
And we had a review session on on Saturday.
Yes.
So just you know, as the weekend was about to start, I just thought everyone needs to just refocus again.
Yeah.
Go over the rules again. So we went through all of them, and it really made the weekend just quite pleasant, really.
Wow. So you felt like you had to nag less. And also the thing I love about rules is that you refer to them. It's like not you, it's like there it is.
Yeah, we need to remind ourselves. And when you get into a situation that you don't want to turn into a confrontation, then we just, as you say, you just point to it and say, do we need to remind ourselves what's on the list? Or equally, so what should we do next? What's next in our plan for the day? Because that's the other thing that we're doing. Because to be honest, the days are all the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's quite hard. You know, even though we try and vary it up with walks on the weekend, it's just setting it out for them what the day is going to look like. Because although we may know what the day is going to look like, we found that sometimes they're expecting something different. And
Yes.
there's controversy because they insist on doing things that they know they are not allowed to do, or it's not time for an electronic, which they kind of just got back the TV, and on the football, they just got back the football 1 day a week. They can do it now. So having it laid out for the day,
Yeah.
not the whole weekend, you know, just the day, what's going to happen tonight, Friday night, what's going to happen tomorrow, Saturday. And at the beginning of each day, we talk about it. That helps.
Excellent. Lovely. Renata, would you, I know things have been tricky for you. So, you know, often what we'll tend to do when we hear someone else is doing really well is like, there's another chance to beat ourselves up.
You know, I have to say, I hadn't thought of letting Robert read the rule. I mean, participate while we were doing the rules. We've hung the rules around the house, and we do go back to them, but I didn't sit him down to do it with me. I didn't think of that. And that probably makes a huge difference because he's more engaged into it.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about doing that. That's a very, very good point, because then it's not just something else that someone else puts up, but they take ownership into it.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Might need to take on your notes.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think it can work really well, and they can decorate them, and you know, just sort of, and there it is in their own writing. The other thing that's quite nice to add to it is to ask them why it's important, because sometimes it feels to them. So one of the situations we had, it was hair brushing in the morning, and I used to have a battle with my girls. You know, it's like, we got to brush your hair, and same with teeth brushing, things like that. And when we sat down, and not only did we write down what the rule was, but I said to them, why is it important? They just like, I don't know. And I said, well, at that point, there was a lot of nits going around. And I said, well, it helps prevent you getting nits. Oh, because then I can tie your hair back. Oh. And then it was just, you know, and it was the same with toothbrushing. I mean, I've been banging on about the fact that you know, you get holes, but that when they're articulating it, it sinks in. So it's the rule and why it's important, and that can just help to get a bit more buy-in from it. Sometimes they just, you know, they don't want it. So like, you know, why is it important to switch the TV off when I say whatever, you know, just don't care. But, you know, then you can add to that and you say, well, look, we're living together. You know, we've got to have harmony. We've got to get other things done. You can sort of explain it in that way, why it's important. And then they can kind of get that. But so I would really recommend you get him to sit with him. You know, it can be lovely if you have it as like, I mean, I've worked with families and they say, okay, well, they build up to it in a night, you know, Saturday morning, we're going to go over the rules and we can have some hot chocolate and marshmallows on top, you know, just something that sort of lightens the mood a bit.
Right.
And,
do you go over the rules every weekend?
No, this is when we're writing them.
Oh, right.
This is for the period of, you know, that kind of like a family meeting.
Right.
When we're just getting clear on them. So, you know, we
decided to go through it simply because we just had a few, you know, really negative days. And we said to ourselves, we can't start the weekend so negatively because it impacts them. So we thought, how can we start it on a positive note and kind of plan to do well? So we thought we need to go over the rules so that then they understand. So that was why we did it.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Well, it obviously worked.
And the other thing that has sort of a bit like what you were saying, Jasmine, about telling them what's happening at the weekend, that can be a nice thing. I've worked with families that have done that Friday evening, and again, a little bit of a ritual around it. You know, I've had families like make it into, we have cocktails and then we discuss the plan for the weekend. And they, you know, I think anything for children, I mean, it was so funny, even this weekend, we you know, everybody's fed up with being together. We're all my kids are here, and I said, what about we have a theme for the meal, like on Saturday night? So we did American, and, you know, and their girls were like looking up recipes for things, and it just, even that, you know, my youngest is nearly 16, but she quite liked being involved. And so with the younger ones, anything that's working up to a plan is really nice, and anything that they can just feel like they could get excited about it. So or you have this ritual, which is could be Friday night, could be Saturday morning, we do like planning time, we do explaining time. You know, this is how the weekend's going to work. And like you guys are saying, it just, you know, you're feeling this sort of negativity build up, and it's just a way of helping them feel like you're all on one team, helping them understand, you know, in your mind, you know that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, but they're so in the moment that they don't think like that. And then it feels like to them, it's like, what? You know, we got to go out, or we got to stop the game, or you know, it's like this huge surprise. And that's so often when the conflict will occur.
Would you do the same for their school day? Because that seems to be, you know, he's got a chart and he knows what he needs to happen, but between classes, it's like the brain explodes and he can't figure out what's happening and why am I sitting down again? I've had enough. Yeah. Is it better to do that as well at the beginning of the day, go through the whole thing?
I would have thought that would be a really good thing, even the night before, because with children, the things that they don't like, if you can emotionally prepare them ahead of time, and just also, that's where the GREAT system will work really well for you. So you're using the get connected. So that might be the night before, and you might just make it a positive. So we're going to have snuggle time and we're going to go through tomorrow. So that's what we do. Yeah. Then you'll use the R, which is to respond to how they're feeling. Look, I know that it's hard for you. You know, homeschool is a really, really hard thing to deal with. You know, you miss your friends. Can feel boring. It feels like, you know, all you do is your lessons, and I really understand that. Managing the expectations is the E. So, you know, so you have, first off, you've got your French class, then you've got a break. What do you think might be good to do in the break? So I don't know, I think you don't use any social media, do you, Renata? Because I posted something on Instagram last week, which was, oh my goodness, that can't remember why I'm telling you about. Oh, no, wasn't that I posted. I interviewed somebody on Instagram. So, and she's a sports, she teaches kids, and she's got these really lovely little after school sort of sports classes for kids. And she said, you know, just short brain breaks, running up and down the stairs 5 times. That's all you need. Or tell them, you know, run down the corridor and back, and I'm going to time you, see how quick you can do it. She said it's just so helpful for clearing the brain, ready for the next lesson. So you could put that in as a part of the timetable. So that's about the E, managing their expectations. So rather than he's like finished the lesson and he's going crazy, he thinks, okay, I've finished the lesson, I'll take my little exercise break. That can help. Then the A is asking questions. So first thing in the morning, you're looking at the timetable. What is it that you have to do? Well, it's breakfast, teeth, whatever. Okay, so the first lesson is, then what happens between the lessons? Then what's the next lesson? And then the T is just praising those tiny steps in the right direction. And I know that's really hard when you've got, you know, your own work.
A million things to do.
You've got your own work to fulfill. Also, we start to feel a bit resentful. That's another reason why we will move away from praising the tiny things, because we think he's written one letter on the page, and, you know, and I'm supposed to praise him for that. and, you know, and they're 11 or he's 7, or, you know, why he knows, why haven't they done any more? And yet when we do say, okay, you've got a T, you've spelt it, you know, you've spelled it correctly, you've written it as a capital. So that's the first letter that you've done on the page. And then you might add in, I know it's hard, you know, I get it. You just wish you were outside in the garden. So what will be the next letter that comes after T? And it's sometimes as you know, little as that you have to. And I get it. And they still might resist. And they might, you know, I remember that sort of, you know, that.
Yeah.
And they draw, you know, the pencil goes like that.
Yeah.
The H.
Yeah.
Sort of
And
like
your
that.
patience goes like this.
Yeah.
And your what?
Patience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fury is rising up. Yeah.
Mm.
And at that point, it might be best to walk away, and just gather your breath. And say, look, and if they start any form of sort of, you know, just say, I don't want to listen to this because I'll start to feel really cross. So I'm going to walk away. And those kind of things can, you know, that can really, really make a difference too. Another trick I have in my head is I'm on a narrow ledge. I could tip into fury, which would mean it probably take me 10 times longer to get through this, or I could gather all the strength that I have and I'll tip it to the positive. And it's under my control. You know, if I am waiting for this child who's been really difficult to change, I'm going to be waiting a long time. So I have to tip it to the positive, and I've got to draw on all my skills, all my tools in order to be able to do that. One of the things that we talked about last week is about our agenda and their agenda. I think it was last week, it may have been the week before, but our agenda is about getting things done. And, you know, we're wise. We know that, you know, in terms of schoolwork, it stretches their brain, it helps them develop, they get, you know, it's moving through the process of life. winding up university or whatever. And they are, this is boring, I don't want to do it. Their agenda is to get it over and done with as quick as they can. So it's, you know, that's where we've got to understand that we're coming from different places. And the other thing that will push our buttons is having an expectation that they should want to do what we've asked. And
How do you not have an expectation though? It's so hard.
It is. I mean, expectation doesn't mean that you can't have an aspiration. It doesn't mean that you can't have rules that they follow, or, you know, adherence to things. But it's when it gets really blurred is to expect them to want to come over to our agenda and to want to do something that they don't like. And often it's, you know, I know Jasmine and Damien, we talked about this a bit in the first meeting. It's often that that's so often when our fury will rise, is that we're expecting them to behave in a different way.
Yes.
And we also, within that is, and when they don't, it kind of means I'm a bad parent, or I'm a bit of a mug, or I've been taken for a ride. We'll get these sort of things in our head, you know. So, and then that makes us even worse, because we're thinking, you know, Jesus, not only am I a really, you know, incompetent parent, I've got a child that's rude, I've done a bad job. And then we go like roll that up and we'll catastrophize. And if they're 7 or 11 and they're not cooperating, or they're being rude, or, you know, they're answering back, what's my 18-year-old going to be, or what's my 15-year-old going to be like? Oh my God, I've got to stamp this out. And then when we're trying to stamp it out, we employ the criticism, the shaming, the shouting, and all those kind of things that it's like, you know, let's just add some more petrol to this fire, and, you know, it's just whoomphing. So, or they go internal, you know, or they'll they'll start to feel resentment building up, and they'll keep things inside, or they won't share things with us because they're frightened of the repercussions of it. Mm-hmm. So whichever way, you know, when we're approaching things with this, the expectation that it should be a certain way, and it's that those shoulds, that we think that they should know what our agenda is and want to do that, and I should be a better parent.
I think, I don't know if I missed it, but also what I tend to do is expecting them to always remember and do the right things, because I also expect, and they call me out on it. They say, you're just not happy unless I do everything right all the time.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And half of me is thinking, yes, actually they are right about it. So I just need to learn how to kind of manage my own expectations, because it's not fair. No, it's not fair.
It isn't fair. And I mean, it's such a hard instinct to change, that one.
Yeah.
And I'm horribly guilty of that one. Of you know, they'd say, look, I've done my English. Okay, well, why haven't you done your maths? You know, like, can't you be just happy that I've done my English?
I think that's where the course has really helped, and you know, you have really helped with that, because I think the reason why we were able to at least start off saying what worked so well is because we kind of just tried to think of things in a more positive light. Yeah, so that's really helped.
I mean, we very much, you know, we were very much of the opinion that, you know, we expected them to behave well all of the time.
Yes.
I think it's just unrealistic. And having gone through this course, it's really helped us to just view things from a completely the opposite perspective. It's all about how we can help the child to be happier, how we can help them with their emotional responses. So our thinking has just come full circle, I think, in terms of
fantastic.
parenting.
Yeah, that's really great.
The kind of difficult days, whereas you know, before all the little events that we were having, we would see it as so draining. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still really draining, and it is annoying, but it's also our response to it. It is a lot different. So even if they are kind of, even this evening, you know, they were crying or whatever, and then Damien quickly turned around the topic with a massive distraction about how many yellow things can you see in a room, whatever. And then Tristan completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
And in my mind, before I would have thought, you're 11, we should be able to get over this. But, you know,
Yeah.
at the same time, we were able to distract him and turn it around. And
fantastic.
so it really has helped, that those kind
Great.
of pointers. Yeah.
That's so good. So we've talked a lot about what's working, which is just so helpful. Was there anything particular that you'd like to discuss? I mean, you've got the beauty of it. It's just just the two families here. So I don't know what's happened to anybody else, but hopefully they'll see this, because it's still useful to review. Renata, you've obviously only come today.
I think emotions have been running very, very high. Robert is just like an exploding, and some days I can do these techniques and stuff if I'm more calm myself. If I'm really stressed because I've got deadlines and I've got 45 people asking me for emails and things, and phones are ringing, I know that I've got less energy to apply these things, and it just goes from bad to worse really quickly.
Yeah. So maybe we could look at pulling yourself back from the brink, because that's a good tool for you. Is you know, it is. I can, well, there's obviously there's the first module, which is about looking after us. So there's that aspect of it, and then there's real life, which is that you know, deadlines and people that are working for us and responsible for, and you know, all those kind of things. So we'll log that. So pulling ourselves back from the brink when things have gone wrong. And what about you two?
Just there were a couple of things that we couldn't find. So we couldn't find the great sort of method online. It wasn't there last week when we checked.
Was it not? Okay, because I definitely uploaded it about 2 weeks ago.
So I think the way it goes is that module 3, instead of going from module 3 lesson 2, it goes straight into module 3 lesson 3. And it says lesson 2, but it's actually lesson 3, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Okay. So module 3 goes from lesson 2 to lesson 2, is
From
it?
lesson 1 straight to 3. And there's
okay. From 1 to 3, but it is actually lesson 2. Is that right? You're not sure.
We don't know. We got confused and we thought we're saturated anyway. Let's try and focus on.
Thank you so much. What happened was I had designed the course slightly differently, and then I designed it in 8 modules. And I was looking at it, and my husband's like, 8 is just overwhelming. What about you condense it into 4, and so I think it got a little bit muddled along the way, but I'll have a look at that. But I definitely uploaded the great system into the section which has the workbook. So it should have the workbook and the great system.
Okay, we'll have another.
We'll go back on and have another look.
I'm going to go back on. I mean, after this, I'll check. Yeah. But so it's underneath all the modules is a section that says something like booklets.
Yeah, I can even look at
resources, it might say. And when you get the little blurb about what it is, but the actual download is to the right. And it should say download, but I will double check that, and I can, you know, obviously I can always email it to you, but I want to make sure that it's within there. So okay, so but in terms of what you'd like to go over or some help with,
I think we were talking about before. I mean, maybe we've improved a little bit on it, where I asked about when, you know, all three of them are around, and it becomes a little bit chaotic because you're
Yeah.
trying to discipline one child. I think we have a little bit of a better grasp on that, and the disciplining in front of siblings, because I have a tick next to that actually, because
Okay.
I asked you before. Um, Defiance, right? Yes, yes, the defiance that is involved with when you're trying to calm them down. So, you know, you're really trying, and, you know, I've then decided to kind of, you know, calm down, and I have control of that, or whatever. But it's like they're still not calming down or trying to see a way around it, you know, just like this evening, no, nothing is good, everything is wrong. And no matter how much you say no, because I do love you and everything is fine. Basically, it's almost like, you know, when somebody wants to feel a certain negative way and they don't want to get out of that no matter
Yeah.
what. In
Yeah.
that instance, they don't want to get out of it. So then you
Yeah.
try and leave it and come back to it. And still, it's kind of that defiance of,
Yeah.
and you
Okay.
try the distraction, and you try the kind of to connect and tell them how you feel, and still nothing. So that would really be really
Okay.
be yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So let's talk about pulling back from the brink.
Mhm.
Because it would be really nice. I know that you guys have had a lot of experience about, you know, being in the brink of it, but being right in that kind of. So it'd be really useful to hear what you've got, you know, what techniques you've used for Renata to hear, and also I'll add in to that. So what would you say has helped you to pull back from losing it?
Bit of meditation, actually. So we've been practicing, or I've been practicing some meditation techniques.
Fantastic. Where did you listen to Lauren within the because that's another of the resources. I don't know if you
I
heard
didn't
that.
realize that.
No,
No.
I didn't use Lauren, but I was using a different app like
Cool.
Headspace.
Headspace. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found that helpful. Just different, you know, breathing,
Mm,
or perhaps just the way you visualize things when you're in that moment, and
yes.
using that to step away from your normal response or your normal reaction. I found that really helpful.
Brilliant.
One of the things that I've used.
Mhm.
How about you?
And for me, it's been just trying to, and I know it sounds difficult, but literally just trying to emotionally detach myself from the situation, because I found what was happening with me is I was getting so angry and so upset, and then would come the yelling, that if I kind of just take a step back and just like remove all of the emotion from it and look at the actual child and think, okay, so what could I say to potentially make him, you know, feel better? I know Damien will always say, I'm the mediator. I try and kind of, you know, improve the situation. What can I say to just improve the situation, as opposed to shaming him and criticizing him and saying, you know, whatever term, or trying to, yeah, what can actually potentially improve the situation? So it's kind of trying to focus on that. I am doing a lot of recognizing the emotions. So I think I think I'm a one-trick pony with that one, because I'm always saying, yes, I understand you're frustrated, but I need to move on and have a little bit more variety. But it helps me, but it's not so much helping them. But I always have one thing, at least if I have that as one thing I know I can do other than yelling, that I know I can move on to kind of other things. Yeah, that's really helped.
And I just add one last thing, is just something that you've been saying, Camilla, around. I just think, you know, the whole reason for doing this is that we're trying to help the child.
Yes.
So you always, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking now, what can I do to help you through this situation or what you're going through? So that's really helped me, because rather than just reacting and getting angry, I'm now thinking about, how do I help you?
Yes. Yeah. That's lovely. Really lovely to hear. What's just reminded me is do you remember with the first session, I promised that I'd make a list of other emotions to describe.
Yes.
Well, I made really a 15-page booklet.
Wow.
That's not just the list, but at the end of it is about 4 pages of different emotions, and that's also in that section. So I put that up. I think that was last week. So I put one on descriptive praise, and that's about a 10-pager, and a 15-pager on reflective listening and validating emotions.
Okay.
And it gives you like situational things to say. So mornings, homework, meal times. So it's a great resource. And again, if you can't find it, let me know. But
And are they both in the module 4?
They're both it's a separate section that is called booklets and resources.
Resources, okay.
There's a section that's called bonus, and that's got the meditation in it. And it's also got an interview with a psychologist called Emma Shapiro that's very interesting as well. She mostly works with slightly younger children. Actually, no, not always. It's between me and her. She's actually an old friend of mine, but she's an incredible professional as a child's psychotherapist. So we were just chatting, and it's really interesting to hear her view. So that's in the section called bonus. So it would help you, I think, to just have a few more emotions to describe, because we tend to go on anger or frustration, which are, pretty key emotions. But there's things like you probably felt a bit let down, or you might have been really, disappointment is another key one. But there's some sort of, like I say, there's about, I don't know how many, but there's about 4 pages of them. So have a look at that. But I think that's, really helpful to Damon, to say, it's actually thinking, how can I help you? And how can I help me, which is the meditation side of things. And a part of it is to just go, do you know what, I'm going to put the wall up here, like kind of just to detach a bit, because it's that umbilical cord thing. There's sort of, we feel so attached to them that we can jump into their emotional world too much. And actually we just have to think, that's your emotion. I'm going to help you, but it's not my fault. And it's my job to help you get over it, not to make it all better. And this has actually come up quite a bit recently, talking to clients and listen, just reading and listening. It's just a reminder, is that it's okay for them to have these emotions. And it isn't, it isn't our job to take them away. It's to have them be okay with them. And it's just a good reminder, because sometimes we're trying to make things better. But actually what we need is to help them to help themselves, and to help them to get over it. And it's fine to have an emotion. It's a good thing. We need to have them have a whole range of emotion. They're all fine. But it's just, we're not there to put the sticking plaster.
It's also impossible. You can't do that 24/7. It's I mean, I don't know how you do it with 3, but with 1, it's like sucks out everything you've got. And there's nothing left to give. You can't even think about how to spell your name at the end of the day. At least I find it. It's just
exactly.
That's why they're in bed at 8.
I did that. So just thinking about the brink, Renata, I mean, one of the things that is helpful is to separate what's our stuff. And quite often what is happening is that there's a build-up of our own stress, with nothing to do with our children. And we let all that stuff build up, and we know that, you know, someone is pissed us off, someone hasn't come through on a project, someone's maybe undermined us, you know, there's all the sort of worky things that can be going on. And then you might have started off by asking him nicely to come and sit back down for his next lesson, and he's run off and said, no, I'm not going to. Or what might he do? That is that the sort of thing he might do between lessons? What are the kind of things that might?
Go and play and not want to come back.
Yeah.
That seems to be, but I can understand. I mean, it is exhausting to face the screen and non-stop. We adults can, you know we have to do it, so we sit there and we do it. But a little person, I can understand that it's just too much for them.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's a really good start, the understanding. So tell us what might trigger you getting to the brink.
Having to come on, Robert, you're doing really well, this is very good, you know, you sort of do all the praises and the encouragement, and you know, by the time it gets to 3:45, you've given all the encouragement that you can give, and you've just got nothing left in the tank, at least at me. And I'm like, okay, I'm encouraged out. Okay, who's encouraging me now? Someone help me here.
Yes. And what might he do that makes you?
He cries, he bursts out crying, and no, I don't want to do it, it's enough, and then stamping his feet up and down, and you know, running around the room, and you're trying to catch them and put them back on their seat, and you know, be polite to the teachers and not be rude, because you know, poor people, it's not their fault, they're probably having the tough time having to teach 15 at once. So it's just trying to make him behave, really.
Okay.
Which is difficult because it's a long day online. 8 hours, I think it's very long.
Yeah, it really is a long time for a 7-year-old. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're expecting them to, even at 3:45, I would have thought time out.
Yeah, they go on until 4. I mean, it's too long. I'm like burnt out by that point. I don't know.
I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, there's one is sometimes we need to be an advocate for our child. And we need to actually say, do you know what? This is pointless. He's really had enough. So, you know, and it might be just to say to the teacher, you know, thank you, but he's just got to have a runaround now, because it's, and I think what we worry about is that that's going to be the thin end of the wedge. Like if we give, or the straw that, I don't know what expression it might be, but, you know, if we give in, then is it going to mean that next time he's going to try and take more? Is that your concern at that time? Would it be like?
Is that my concern? Possibly. I'm just mainly thinking, you know, if the school are providing us this timetable that we need to follow to a degree, everybody else is following the timetable, and they're not putting it across because it's unattainable. They're putting it across because they think it is something that they can do. Therefore, if you're the only one that sort of doesn't follow suit, I don't know. Do you need special dispensation just for one, or am I being too?
Have you talked to them? Have you said? And is there the other thing that would be quite useful is to track it? Does it tend to happen at the end of the day when he's just?
Yes, it does. The afternoons are very much harder than the mornings, for sure.
And so, I mean, it may be good to check in with the teacher and see if perhaps, you know, it would happen in the class. They might well say to an active child, look, go and take the register, or, you know, they may well actually give them a break, but that it's as part of managing the classroom. So it might be worthwhile just checking in with the teacher and saying, look, I've noticed by the afternoon, he's just not, you know, it's just no point, or
not cooperative. Let's just say that.
I'm really struggling to get cooperation, because I think that he needs, is there something else we could do? Could we give him mid-class, could you have like a signal where he gets his jumping around break, even if it's for two minutes and comes back?
It's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought of doing that. I was just, yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I just think we need to be the advocate for our child and not always assume that our child is the one that's sort of in the wrong and the one that's, you know, the only one. And I suspect he isn't. I mean, it's a class of boys. I suspect he isn't the only one. But I think that might help. But you know, one of the interesting things that you said was like, kind of, who's looking after me? Like, I've had enough. And that again comes back to the self-nurture. And maybe, you know, are you spending some time in the office as well at the moment, Renata? Or
yes, I have to go in every once in a while. Yeah.
But quite often you're at home.
Most of the time I'm at home, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how am I going to deal next week where my boss has said, oh yeah, come to the office and bring the child. The office is empty. He could do his homework from one of the other desks. I mean, does she have any idea what this entails? You know,
might find it exciting. That's what she.
Yeah, he might love it. I might,
you know what?
need a glass of wine by the end of it.
I mean, it might be that, you know, a change of environment is actually not a bad thing. You know, and it's a journey. It breaks it up for him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out that it's going to be terrible. Sometimes children will step up. And, you know, that's another quite good thing, is just to think, you know what, they will sometimes just really surprise us. And actually enjoy something that we thought they wouldn't, or be really helpful and cooperative when we thought that they wouldn't. So I wouldn't rule that out.
Okay.
But at home, I would say, you know, is there some moments in the day, you know, maybe this Headspace app, is there just literally 10 minutes when you can go off, plug in to your headphones, and he can, I don't know, maybe he's in a lesson, or maybe he's on his running around break, and you look after you. And
do a bit of meditating.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. Did you find it helpful, the meditating?
Yeah, it's just something that I actually started during the summer.
Do you do it in the morning or at any time in the day, out of interest?
I tend to do it first thing in the morning, just to just plan, you know, start the day off in the right way. And then I'll use one at night as well. So just before I go to sleep, I'll do one at night. So yeah, I found it really helpful.
Let's give meditating a go. I'll give anything a go.
Yeah. Damien, do you subscribe to it?
Yes. Yeah. It was Jasmine who recommended it. So her workplace, sort of, I think they rolled it out across her workplace, and then I then sort of started to use it upon her recommendation. So yeah.
And they do a 1 month free trial, I think, Renata. So you can.
Could you remind me what's it called, please?
Headspace.
Headspace. Thank you.
He's a very interesting guy. There was an article. Did you read that? There was an article about him in the paper the other day, and he was like a total dropout. He dropped. I think he dropped out of university. Then he bummed around Europe, and
he went to like Eastern Asia.
Then he became a monk, I think,
or
studied with the monks. I think it was probably his parents were thinking, "What is our son doing?" And then he learned meditation in Tibet or somewhere. And he came back and he started teaching meditation. He is now, I mean, he is a multi-millionaire. He's done so well. And I think he's a really great guy. He's just moved to Portugal, interestingly. And he sounds like a really lovely guy. And I think he gives back a lot. But it's such an interesting story. But I haven't personally used it, but I know I use Lauren, who's in the program. There's a little meditation that she's done, so I use her stuff. But I think it's a great thing, first thing, if you can have a discipline of waking up, plugging into it, and then just listening to something.
Mhm.
And also night is great too. But so Renata, I mean, whether it's first thing, whether it's a lunchtime break, just any way that you can calm your head.
Yeah, I think I need that, because you can't help anybody else if you're all over the place yourself.
Honestly, Renato, I used to get quite frustrated, especially with the boys, the twins, and just going through this and doing a bit more of the meditation, I found it so helpful.
Really? Oh gosh. Oh, let's pray.
And
I'll
it's
give it a
nice
go.
with 3-minute chunks, so you don't even have to have 10 minutes. Because I would think, oh, who's going to find 10 minutes somehow to do this? I know it only seems like 10.
I know, but
Then
you've
I
got
realize you can start off with certain, sessions for 3 minutes, then gradually increase. So it's all kind of at your pace. Which is
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that suggestion.
yeah.
I'll definitely look into it.
And also exercise. Do you take, because you guys, you're quite good on your exercise, aren't you?
we try to go for the walks on the weekends with the kids, which is quite nice. And then if we have time, I think Damien will probably encourage it more since we're here together. He's like, when are we ever going to be at home alone together? But it's just the time. It's just not. It's not possible to do it all the time. But we try.
Do you get the kids out for some exercise during the day?
Yes, yeah, as well. Oh, as in at the moment, like I was saying, they're at school now because the first time around I didn't take up the key worker place, and I really struggled because I thought actually there's a lot of expectation from me and I'm not fulfilling that. And then I'm also not fulfilling and doing the best that I can with the children. So something is going to have to kind of give. So then on this occasion, I did decide to take it up given the situation.
Because you're a scientist, so
I'm a
yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, that's lucky you.
I think it's good for them. It's so good for them to be at school.
Oh,
and it's they need that. They need the other children. They need the exercise. I think.
yeah.
I can't wait for the schools to open again.
Renata, is that the school, I know every school is different, is only expecting them at the moment to do 4 hours of learning because they realize that 8 hours would be too much. Obviously, I'm not telling your school to, asking you to tell your school to reconsider, but it's maybe also kind of appreciating that long period of time for them is quite intense. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make us see the worth of the fees or something. I'm not sure.
I do suspect there's an element of that. But I think that, you can, like I said, just sort of stand up and say, look, I'll still pay my fees, but that last half an hour, it just doesn't work for him.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
Or we give him a break and, come back to it. So I think those kind of things, is just.
I do think they have, I don't know if your boys are the same, but they have so much energy. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
They really need to just run.
Well, when we, like the first lockdown, we had them at home, and I would take them out on bike rides every single day. Like
that must have helped.
We would do like a 5-mile bike ride or something just to burn some of the energy, because it was just crazy.
It wasn't burning anything because they still had all the energy and we were just tired.
My God.
But I think in boys in particular, they do have that need to burn
I know. If only the weather was a little bit better. I mean, you could put a trampoline out, at least in between lessons, they could jump up and down, but it's a bit difficult under the torrential rain we've had lately.
Yeah, no, that's easy. So I wanted to pick up on that sort of what you were describing as that defiance when you're trying to calm them down. So I mean, one of the things just to remember is when we're acknowledging the feelings, there can be a real time lag between us acknowledging and their feeling subsiding. So if you think about the egg diagram, so, you know, we're adding in the praise and the validation, reflecting their feelings. And we expect it to just tip. But there's a bit of a, there's that sort of aftermath, you know, it just, it will sometimes just take longer than we expect. And I think we just have to accept that when they're full of those feelings, when all those emotions, that's when they just don't have the ability to think, I'm being rude, or I should just curtail it now. Or, you know, this is going to upset mum and dad. It's still cursing around their system. That cortisol is just going around their system, and when they've calmed down, that's when we can address it. Now, I know that's hard because sometimes you've just got to get them to do something. But you know, you're absolutely right to try the distraction. You're right to try the connection, but when they're in the middle of it, it's just we need to realize that we perhaps just need to wait. You know, I still have this with my teens. So, you know, my daughter was being rude and grumpy, and I was being nice and kind and you know, starting to feel really annoyed that it hadn't worked. And then I waited, and she came around and said later, you know, I'm sorry, I was rude. But it and of course I don't want her to be rude. She knows that that's not how we operate. But there are other stuff going on. I don't even really know what it was. But you know, where there's other stuff going on, they lose that ability to have perspective. And so it can just sometimes, I mean, I think I'm quite like you, Jasmine, that I sort of, you know, we'll say all the nice things and then like, hold on a minute. Now you need to say sorry, or you know, and sometimes they've actually said to me, can you just leave me be now? Can you just, you know, can you just stop, even with the nice stuff, just stop. I need to just to settle.
So then how do you maybe not so much with the defiance, because so you, as you know, you're validating the emotion, and as you say, there may be a time like you appreciate that eventually you get through that, but how about situations where you need to actually show some level of firmness? Because I think I'm being so positive and trying to use so much positivity that it's almost like I don't know when to be firm and not at the same time contradict everything else.
Sure. So can you give me a little example, and then I could perhaps tell
Harming a sibling.
Sorry?
Harming a sibling, like hitting the other sibling, but not, and you know, saying like mean and, you know, emotionally mean things.
Nasty things, yeah.
Hitting, harming things in the household.
Yeah.
Harming things in the household. Damaging things in the house, kicking things around. You know, just because I'll just see something on the floor, sock on the floor, instead of picking it up, I'll just pick it. Maybe those aren't good examples, because now that I'm thinking of it, I would say, yeah, you don't really want to kick that sock. Should we just take it and put it upstairs or whatever? But certain things that are actually just not.
I mean, in terms of, so the harming the siblings is a difficult one, because I think we may have discussed this in your first session, but it's like what we often don't see is the goading. So it's the other sibling that's quietly needling them until
there may be situations where that's not actually the case. So in the morning, you know, we'll get ready, everything is fine, and then you'll just say something really mean or push your sibling to the ground. Nothing's happened, and I've seen
nothing seems to have happened. Then at which point I would say that there's something else going on for the child that's pushing or hitting. It's probably they don't want to go. I don't know if it's he doesn't want to leave the house, or he's feeling a bit tired, or he's something else will have frustrated him. Siblings are the easy target for an emotion that is there that you want to get rid of. And the thing about saying nasty things, and this can be the same, they can say nasty things to us too. I think the firmness can come back by saying, first of all, you need to acknowledge that you feel hurt. So, if it's to you, I feel really hurt when you say something like that. Or you start off with, when you say, you look really stupid, or, I hate your food, or something that they might, I feel really hurt. So you're not saying you make me, you're not owning the emotion. When it's to another child or, another sibling, I will always, it's like you need to expose what's actually going on. And what's usually going on is they're trying to feel a sense of power or a sense of control by belittling someone else. And when you actually say, look, what we will typically do when we're not feeling so great is try to make somebody else feel bad. And you'll see it, with in lots of other situations, they might, tease another child, like not necessarily just a sibling. And it's always about wanting to feel that sense of superiority or a sense of power over someone else. And when you expose it and just say, look, when you do that, you're not actually gaining anything. Because we don't. We think we're going to gain something by putting someone else down. But actually we just don't. So that's it. So that can actually help with it, and just say, this is human nature. This is what we'll often do, but it just doesn't work.
Okay. So when you're saying be firm, it's not necessarily lay down the law. It's not like, tell them what's happening.
Yeah. But you can say it in a, quite a firm voice. Look, you just told your brother that he was really stupid. And when we do that, it's like you're trying to feel some kind of power, but it's unkind. And I know that you're not an unkind person, and it doesn't actually make you feel more powerful. It might temporarily, but that that's not where we get our power from. We get our power by realizing all the good within us, and all the things that we're capable of. And we get our power by setting ourselves targets and going beyond them. But we don't actually get any power by trying to make other people look bad. And that's what's going on. Okay, yeah. I can honestly say, part of what I teach is research based, and I do loads of reading and studying other disciplines, and part of it is also just what I know works. And I can honestly, from trying it on my own kids, and I used to do that all the time, and now they never put each other down, ever, any of them. My girls will have funny spats about things, but they just don't use that as a way of interacting. And you sometimes grown-ups siblings will continue to put each other down. Yes. So it's not something that they necessarily would grow out of just because they're adults. So,
and I think that's also the thing. Like I try and think, I can't empathize. I come from a large family. I have many siblings, and that wasn't the atmosphere in my household at all. I think because I'm so much younger than the rest of my other siblings.
Maybe.
but yeah, that wasn't the atmosphere at all. So I tried to think, okay, maybe this is how siblings are, and I can't, you know, relate in that way and relate to it. So I find that really, I actually find it quite harmful to me and to the child that's involved. And you know, they do it to each other, so
Yes,
it's not
of course
just
they
one
do.
victim.
Yeah. So it's not always one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not uncommon. I mean, it is terribly, terribly common that siblings do it, but we can train them out of it.
Exactly.
And it's by that exposing. And you know, you might find, Renata, that Robert starts to sort of big himself up by putting others down, even if it's just talking to you. And you just, if you can just explain to them, you know what, you are you, and that's him, and you need to feel good about all the things that you can do, not just because you're better than him. And it doesn't take away competitiveness, but it takes, because you know, there's a very good aspect to competitiveness, but the best competitiveness is actually with yourself. And it's not at the expense of someone else. And that actually just also helps to really build that self-worth, because it's not like, you know, I can only feel good about myself when I beat someone else.
So does that firmness then work in the same way, like maybe it might for Renata and her son, when you're discussing things around boundaries? Because that's the other thing. Like if you have a boundary set up, for example, so we have one family movie on a Saturday, and when it's time to stop watching that family movie, that's when we get, you know, the conflict. And it may be a little bit less now, but now we've tried to say, okay, so if we give back the remote or we turn off the TV immediately, then that means next time we will still be able to watch it. But it doesn't always go too well. You just get, you know, silly behavior when it's time to stop watching TV. And I want to, you know, really just try and discourage that. So does that same level of firmness then work there as well? Or, you know, in situations like that where you're trying to um, highlight what the boundary is.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing we need to be aware of with TV is it's terribly addictive. So, you know, there's that real disappointment that it's ended. I mean, a solution to that can be to give them the warning. I don't know if you do that, but you know, the movie will end in about 5 minutes. You can also use the great system for that. So you can actually go through before you put the film on, you can say, look, at the end, what do I expect you to do? What's the right behavior? What's the right response for switching it off? I mean, you can't, the difficulty with a film that's 90 minutes, that's a part of your sort of, you know, Saturday thing, you don't really want to make it contingent that the next week they're going to lose out. If it's, so I would try and set it up for success, and practice, you know, how they need to finish the movie. If it's a smaller program, you know, if they've watched a 30-minute or a 15-minute program and they kick up a really big fuss and start sort of screaming and grabbing the remote or whatever, then I would say, yeah, that could impact the next one. So you could say, okay, well, next time it's just going to be 15 minutes. We can't have the full one because you didn't do what I asked. And then they can sort of earn it back. But with a sort of celebratory film, I wouldn't use any form of consequence with it.
Okay.
I would also be aware that it's very
even when you give them it will end in 20, you know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, darling, 5 minutes, 2 minutes left, and we have to go. There's still an explosion of upset at the end, even when you've given them all the timelines. And you have discussed it at the beginning. Any other top tips? Do we have to be? I don't know.
I think that it's just partly to be
perseverance.
Yeah, perseverance. Praise the improvement. Maybe that tantrum was 2 minutes, not 10. And you know, that's how I would go about it.
Okay.
But you know, they don't want to, just always that reminder that they don't want to behave like that. They're just thoroughly peeved off that, you know, it's over. A timer is quite a good thing too, you know, that actually beeps loudly, but it'll be a shock to them and they'll still, you know, fuss about it. But you'll find that, you know, you can stick with the system of, and you'll find that over time it does improve.
I find that Robert's idea of 20 minutes, 15 minutes is very different from my idea of 15-20 minutes, because I'm watching the, you know, the clock, and I show him the clock and I say, look, this is what 20 minutes is like, and he just goes like, no, it's got to be more than that.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. You know, if you're chatting, having a coffee with a friend, doesn't it feel like, you know, 50 minutes, nothing? So it is that, you know, stuff that we're enjoying feels like it goes in seconds.
That's true.
That we're finding frustrating feels like it's an eternity. So that is understandable.
I think the one thing that you were asking at the very beginning, what works more than anything, at least in our household, is the sense of humor.
Yes.
By far, making it funny, it's really is the best.
Yes, yes, it really does make such a difference. It can really turn a deeply grumpy child in, you know, to actually, you know, you see the little side that you get, and I say things like, "You're definitely not laughing," and then it, you know, or silly voices or anything that can lighten the mood makes a real difference. We've actually gone over 15 minutes over time. Now, did you get the little survey? Did you see the link to the? So I would really love your responses, because this is the first time I've run this program, and I'm going to be running it again in February. And everything that you say, I can change your name, so I don't have to, you know. Some people mind, some people don't mind, but so I give you pseudonyms if that's the best for you. But any feedback, I'm a sponge for it. It's so helpful, and it's just, you know, it's been wonderful how much you've got from it. We've also got our sessions, so we're not forgotten those, which we need to set up. But if I could just beg you to fill that out.
You should have 2 responses.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You should have in mine as well. I think I did it on the weekend.
Sorry, you know, I set it up to send me an email, and it obviously didn't. So, oh well, there I am going on about how
Be diligent.
Oh, you're my star pupils. That's brilliant. And we will be in touch about our next sessions. And also do use the email. You can still ping me an email for quick questions. That's no problem at all.
Camilla, as I missed out the first 2 sessions, is there a way, or 3 even, is there any way that I can go back and see them or listen to them?
I did send you the links in the emails. There were the links to watching them again.
So that's what I need to do, just click on them.
Go back onto the emails. The only thing is, I am not sure whether they're all still there, because I only have so much storage. But I'll go back on Zoom and see if they're still there.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll sort that out. And I'll also just check that those resources are in the program. Just go back in and have a look yourselves, and I'll look too. But I think you'll like those booklets, because they're just good to print out and have as a sort of quick reminder.
Yeah, that's fine.
Best of luck with the boys, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck, Renata.
Lovely meeting you. Thank you, Camilla. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Camilla.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you.